But so in this case, I didn't provide any value in exchange for that dollar. I simply asked for something without providing anything in return.
I would take a step back. So anyone who's listening or watching the show, ask someone right now for $1. Text them, Venmo, ask your husband, ask your wife, ask your friend, ask your neighbor, and see how he feels. And you start realizing it's empowering, especially if you have a dream of owning real estate, especially if you have a dream of having your own business like I do, and a lot of people want to have, and it's possible for everyone. A lot of ordinary people can have it. You don't have to have some big thing. More people want to help you than you realize. More people want to help you than you realize. And this is a thing that people are wondering. You don't have jerky. You don't make meat.
Right.
Like you don't, where are you going to get the jerky from? But what I have learned through thousands of seeing other people do it, doing it myself, is that if you have the money, if you have the demand, then delivering this stuff is easy.
Right.
What 99% of people do wrong is they go make the jerky. They go spend 6 months. They're like, I'm going to go find the happiest cows, you know, and make the best jerky ever, to only find out that no one wants it or it's very hard to sell. There's another way. Make it easy on yourself. So I contacted people on Facebook. I looked up anybody on Facebook that was a friend of mine. I didn't post on my email list. I didn't use my network or AppSumo or anything like that. And I just looked up people who did keto on Facebook. Any of my friends that liked keto. So I do encourage, when you're trying to validate, it's a pre-sell method, just go see it. Text people, call people, ask people. A lot of times people are doing it way too passively. They're like, oh, I posted it on Reddit. I'm like, did you get anything? No. Don't even laugh. It's serious. And I get it, because it's safer to get rejected by people you don't know, than find the truth from people who care about you. And here's the next. I know all the excuses. No, your family and all these people are, of course, they're going to give you money. That's not true. My brother said no. My parents said no. I was like, Seth, what are you doing?
Your mom said no.
Yeah, my mom didn't buy it. And what was fascinating, though, is that I started messaging people, and this is where the dollar, just getting $1 comes into play. There's a guy named Eric who I met from Colorado, and he's like, yeah, I'll buy 3 months. And he sent me the PayPal. It was, I believe it was $60. And it changed everything. You believe. I was like, I can do this. I can do it. So I messaged him directly. I looked up other people. You asked for a referral. Sometimes that works. Sometimes it doesn't, but at least it's something that I think is effective. The thing that as a business scales, it's also noticing what's working. So what ended up working extremely well was, one, the subscription, but secondly, it was who else has money that is easy to spend that would want this problem solved. And what I recognize is that companies have budgets for snacks.
Yes.
I have an email provider. I have an accountant. I have a lawyer. Like, I have people that I have paid that have offices and have snacks that they're already spending money on. It is much easier to further a behavior than to change behavior. It's much easier to increase and further behavior. So they're already spending money on it, versus if you don't have an office or you don't spend money on it and I have to convince you, that is really hard. And that is what people get wrong so many times.
So essentially you asked yourself the question, who do I know who's directly in my phone, who I already know, who already spends money on the thing that I'm trying to sell, the type of thing that I'm trying to sell?
This guy named Ryan. Nice. So I had people just submit applications, and his was really good. And I was like, all right, here's a business. I'm happy to advise you.
Wow.
And then he ended up selling it. And I was like, okay.
Wow. Good for him for growing it for 18 months.
Yeah. It might've been 12. I don't remember the exact time frame, but I think the thing to realize is just, you don't need money. You don't need time. You don't need more excuses. You just need to get started and a playbook to follow along. I lived in my mom's house for 2 years. I lived in my aunt's basement for a year. I lived on couches for a year. While I was making 6 figures at mint.com, I was living on couches because I didn't want to pay rent. And then I didn't really spend money on clothes. I didn't spend money pretty much on anything. And to some extent, I thought money can't buy happiness. I think the point I'm trying to say is, the point I'm making for people is that find the thing that actually gives you the joy, find the life you actually want to live. And then you can actually go execute towards it. Like, you can go and do it, but you have to start it today, because it's not going to happen for some time. 10 years is what it could take. And find a thing that you want to stick with for that long a time. For me, it's promoting. For you, it's talking about this. The other thing I would say that changed my perspective about my freedom number and how it's evolved, because I didn't really change it. I was making millions, still living like I needed to only have 30,000 and not spending any of it, was you got to test before you invest. This is an AppSumo value. And so when COVID happened, that is when I finally enjoyed my money. Like I have, I had a 2004 Miata, which I still own and I love. And when COVID happened, I was like, I really could probably die. I could die. Why don't I try living a bigger life? Let me just try it out. Cause like sometimes it's hard to know the ending if you haven't seen it. That's why I hire these advisors. They've seen the ending. They've seen the big thing. So I bring them on and they show me their bigger vision. And so when COVID happened, I started renting fancy houses.